What is up, world? Jude here, coming to you with this video just as more lessons from the field, more takeaways, more nuggets, more gold that I've been seeing because I talk to a lot of people every day, every week, and since I'm out in the field, I'm out on the front lines, like I'm really seeing what people live like day to day, what people are struggling with day to day, and how they try to manage those problems, those struggles in their own life. And it's really interesting because a lot of people I talk to, I mean, every single person has so much potential, but there are recurring themes, there are recurring points that seem to come up and again that are universal among many of the people I speak with. And so that's why I make these videos, is to highlight what those problems are and those basic but striking prevalent problems are within individuals in the common man, and look at solutions that you can apply to start to walk through that, right? At least be aware of what they are, and so that when you do make the decision to find help, seek help, you already know what your problem and where it comes from is, so you can have a better way of being able to resolve it and resolve the consequence. And so today the point I wanted to talk about is procrastination. Procrastination was just meeting with this really talented fellow, right? Ambitious, we can say, but his problem was that he is, in his own words, lazy. And through the words of the people surrounding him, like his family, his parents, he's just lazy. And it's interesting because the word procrastination is used a lot or understood a lot by people, but people don't actually know what procrastination means. And that's what I'm going to break down in this video. Is procrastination is not laziness. Here's what it really is. Procrastination starts, I have to explain to you a couple points first before I get into what procrastination really is. I'll first talk about how being a parent is the most important job in the world, right? I'm sure we can all agree on that. Being a parent is the most crucial job because you are developing and you are supporting the future of this species, as who we are as humans. If being a parent is such an important job and educating a child is such an important job, why is the child the only, within being a parent or being a child, why is that the only job, industry, sector, we can say, that doesn't actually consult a child on what they want to learn or what they need to learn in order to do what they want to do or need to be? Give you an example. Sure, you've been to a pizza place before, a pizza parlor. At the pizza parlor, the cashier is going to take a couple steps to make sure that you have the best experience, to make sure that you get what you are looking for, what you need. You're going to walk in there and they're going to ask you, how can I help you? And you're going to let them know what you want, and they're going to ask you or make some recommendations to you based on what you want, right? Maybe they have a special that day, and they're going to support you to see, okay, you can try this special because it meets this need that you're craving. You want something salty, you also want something spicy, and something a bit exotic, right? Like pineapple on a pizza. To many people, that's exotic. So, in essence though, they're going to consult you through the process of getting your pizza, of getting that need met, of getting what you want. If we go into an example of a toy company, the toy company is going to do market research. They're going to have focus groups. They're going to call local people and see what toys are their children wanting for this Christmas. And then they're going to, based off the information that they gathered, start to build their products so that it can meet the needs of the market, right? So they're going to consult with the people that are using their products and services so that they can be able to provide the best value, the best experience towards the customer. So why is it then that in parenting and in education, the child, we as the children, are never consulted as to what we want, right? I know I've heard of a couple families that do this. You know, my wife's family, she was saying that when they were growing up, there will be a couple times, maybe a few times or once a month or once every couple months, they would have a family meeting, and their dad would ask them, okay, how am I, let's do a review. How am I doing as a father? How are we doing as parents? Is there anything that you would want to change? Is there anything that you would want to be better? And that's great. The only problem with that is that she was explaining to me that because, first of all, the parents parented with a lot of fear, and so they'd be afraid to even give an honest review and give honest feedback. They'd be like, oh, everything is okay, we're good, just keep doing what you're doing. And so they couldn't actually really get what they needed or wanted because there was a foundation of parenting and communication built on fear and lack of trust, right? So that's the only time I really heard that being done. But that goes to the point of, okay, why are you procrastinating? And why is it not laziness? In parenting, there's a dynamic. There's the mother, father, parent, and then there's the son, daughter, child. And you can see the children as less than, you might be say inferior to the parents because they are the adults, they're the grown-ups, and so they know what to do, they know what's going on. They're in essence a god to the children because the children doesn't know anything, so the parents have to give them and teach them everything. And because of that dynamic, it's easy to fall for the parent into a pattern of authority, a pattern of power, and just telling a child what to do rather than supporting them to be able to understand what is best to do. And as a child goes through these experiences of being told what to do, being authorized what to do, being forced what to do, the dynamic turns from inferiority to superiority to more of it's the same thing really, but a better way to describe it is a master-slave dynamic. Okay? So, to make that picture clear, imagine you or your parent, your mother, father, asks you to take out the trash. And, you're playing your game, you're having a great time, you're playing Call of Duty, you're on Xbox, maybe talking with your friends online, and all of a sudden they barge into your room and they're like, hey, Alexander, go take out the trash. And I want this trash to be done before I get back home. Now, that's all they leave you with. They give you a command, and they command it with authority, fear, power, and you're like, hey, man, mom, I just want to play my game. I'm having a great time. Why are you ruining the vibes? Why are you making my experience not enjoyable? And because you are the child, you don't have a choice. I mean, you have a choice, but you don't really have a choice in that situation. And so the only way that you can really express yourself to start to get power back from your parents who are commanding you is to do the job not in the best way that they ask. To wait either until the last minute when they start yelling, screaming, beating you, hitting you, and it really gets to be a situation, you wait until then to do it, because at least you feel like you as a child start to feel like you have some type of control with regards to the situation, right? Or if you do it, and or when you do it, you do it in a very terrible way. You don't do it as best as it could be. So let's say you're taking out the trash. You will take the trash just up until the curb, right? Not all the way where it actually needs to be, just maybe right before it. Because then you can say, okay, I did it, but again, you didn't do it the right way. Or let's say you have to wash the dishes, right? You're just gonna throw water, or you would have just thrown water onto the plate, and you can call that as wash. When you didn't use any soap, you didn't put any elbow grease into it, you just wet the plate. And so to you, that is, as a child, that's a way to get power back, to be able to battle the master in that situation. And so that's how procrastination is starting to be developed. Why? Again, because in this situation, you are being given a goal. The goal is coming from something outside of you. And you're learning that when you have goals and you have tasks, the best way to do them, to keep your power, is to not do them as exactly asked, on time or in the right way. So you wait and you wait, because that for you is a feeling of control as a child, a feeling of getting power back. And so now, since that's how you learned, again, it's not what you learned necessarily, but how did you learn something. So the way that you learned to have a relationship with goals was through being given goals and chores and such like that from your parents, your family, your external environment. And since they weren't your goals originally, and you didn't actually want to do them, the only way that you saw fit to do them was to procrastinate and to do them in a bad way. So now that you're an adult, the way that you would handle goals, even if they're your own goals, and you actually see value in them, and you want to be able to get the best result, now that you're an adult, even though you know there's a better way to do something, the way that you learned it as a child was in that terrible way, right? That artificial way. And so now that's your whole foundation towards having goals and hitting goals, is to do them in a terrible way, not the best way, or wait until the last minute, because then you can feel a sense of, I have some authority, some control over the situation. So that is what procrastination really is, right? You could say it's a program. It was a program that was embedded into you based off the dynamics of how parenting currently works in the system that we live in. It's not laziness. It is a cry for help. It's a cry for change, right? And so the thing, it's not your fault. Procrastination isn't your fault per se. It's the fault of the environment and the context that you've grown up in, the environment, the context that we are all subject to because of the way that the world is moving, the system is moving, and has moved. So the thing is not your fault, but it is your problem. It currently is your problem. So you're the only one that can step up to take responsibility to change it as a problem. And the part of the problem is that since you learned it, how to do that and how to act that way at such a young age, that problem is embedded and dug deep into the foundation of who you are. So the only way to change that is through a specific process, right? Is through a way of re-educating yourself and being able to access those memories, those thoughts, those beliefs towards goals and goal setting, and literally rewrite that story that you learned towards having goals, right? Be able to undo that master-slave dynamic that you have towards goals. And that's really the only way, is to re-educate yourself, have a system to relearn and educate. And that's what the conversation I was having with this gentleman, another gentleman, this guy was about, right? It's like 28, 29 years old, like, really has ambition, has talent, has drive, but every time he tries to do something new, he falls short. Even though he could see the vision, you can see the potential, he just doesn't do it, right? Because there's this feeling of, okay, this hope, this feeling of eventually, somehow, some way, it'll figure itself out. But I learned, and me myself, I learned this as well a little bit later in life, of that you can't just wait for something to figure itself out. If you imagine you said that about what you're going to eat today, somehow, some way, I'm going to eat. No, that's not how eating works. You got to physically get up, cook the food, and then put the food into your own mouth. Food's not going to fly into your mouth. And so the same way, things aren't just magically going to change for you. You have to have a system as well as a tool and the discipline to implement that change. That is how change works. But if you're struggling with the point of procrastination, laziness, you got a long way to go. And so that would be the first step. Okay, identify how did you learn to have goals? How did you learn to set goals, hit those goals? How did you learn to build discipline? And if you realize, okay, you didn't have the best examples of that, you didn't have any real examples of that, then you're a long way off towards actually hitting your goals. And that's probably why you feel like you're in a loop, right? You feel like you're kind of stuck, is because there's a lack of education with regards to actually doing what you need to get done. So that is the video for today. Look into that, really think about that. Reach out to me if you got any questions, because that's what I do. That's what we do, is just like solve these procrastination problems, solve these problems of how can you be the best version of yourself. But you can't be the best version of yourself if there are these even unconscious points, these little points, these the way you grew up points that are holding you back. And there's specific ways, again, like I said, tools, systems to walk through that. But only if that really makes sense will we discuss that, if you really want it. But yeah, this is Jude. It's always a pleasure. Looking forward to bringing more stories, more gold from the field, so that you can benefit from it. But the best way to benefit is through living it yourself. So that's what I'll leave you with. Looking forward to talking soon. Bye bye.